Welcome back to Silverstone, where we are building up to round 5 of the GB3 Championship. As you can see, the conditions looking a lot better this morning. That wasn't the case in round 4 yesterday. Let's go back and have a look at what happened in what was a very wet round 4 of the GB3 Championship.
From the first race of the Silverstone weekend, and again a reminder how fantastic that start was from both of the JHR development drivers. Joseph Loke through the middle, Matthew Rees also following him, but John Bennett was the one able to hang on at the race lead only just as they headed through the first corner. Alex Dunn dropping back a little bit on the race start courtesy of Matthew Rees's fantastic launch, as we lost them all in the spray on the race down towards Brooklands. Aintree was a bit of a problem point for Kuharczyk, who had a bit of a spin, as well as one of the other Douglas Motorsports drivers, this one Styko, who went wide at Brooklands before rejoining the circuit. Heading through Magnus Beckers and Chapel, it was Shin that had the spin, and he was sent straight through the gravel trap, was able to rejoin despite going over the grass and slipping and sliding his way through. Little bits of contact, but fantastic fighting nonetheless between the likes of Rujon, Mavliatov and Shin on his recovery drive as they head through Aintree and up towards the Brooklands corner. Then there was this late race drama with Bursky and Suta Arau getting into contact, and Nico Christodoulou being sent off as a passenger in all that fight, ending the race in the gravel trap. They'd have that under double waved yellow, so we were still allowed this fight to continue as Joseph Loke was pushing as hard as he possibly could, setting fastest lap after fastest lap, trying to catch this man here as John Bennett would come out of the final corner to take his first victory in the GB3 Championship. Loke and Rees behind.
Highlights there from round 4. Piers, honestly, I don't know how you and Lewis actually saw what was going on. Let alone, I mean, I don't know how the drivers saw where they were going, but honestly, don't know how you and Lewis could pick out the cars in that. It was absolute chaos out there, wasn't it?
As hard as it was for us, it would have been more difficult for the drivers. We've spoken to a few of them, and we'll be hearing from some more of them in a moment, and it was literally a wall of spray out there. We could see when the cameras were low down, you couldn't see anything, and that's one of the tricky things about single-seater racing in the wet conditions. But no, a lot of the drivers did very, very well to basically keep out of the trouble, because most of the race was incident-free.
I think it was a race of survival, wasn't it? I mean, shortly after that, the racing was actually brought to a stop here at Silverstone, and obviously, as you'll know, if you're following GB4, the race yesterday didn't actually go ahead. That will go ahead at a later date. But yeah, I mean, as a driver, how is it in those conditions out there?
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely driven in conditions like that. I remember in 2020 we went to Snetterton and one of the races was almost exactly the same conditions, and it really is completely blinding. You go down the straight and you can't see a thing. You've got effectively just like thick fog, and then you'll just see a blinking light come out of nowhere. But I think one thing that's really good this season is the GB3 cars have not only the rain light down low, but they've also got the two on the top tips of the rear wings, which gives you that extra bit of visibility for a bit more safety. But yeah, it was hard for the drivers, hard to overtake. It's hard to even stay on the circuit, but most of them managed it really well. Different day today though.
And one of the big things as well is we had a big penalty that affected the overall race win. Josh Bennett was handed a penalty for track limits at the first corner, and that meant his place has now been swapped with Joseph Loke, who was in second on track. So yeah, what did you make of that one?
Yeah, John Bennett at the start got overtaken at the inside by Joseph Loke, and then out of shot of camera, or out of shot of what we could see because of the spray. Bennett got back through by the time we got to Maggots and Beckett's, and the stewards and the driving stewards will have had a look at that incident. They will have the onboards, they will have had different camera angles than we had, of course, available in the comms box, and they will have made a decision, and they deemed that John Bennett did gain an advantage by leaving the circuit to maintain the race win. So those positions were reversed. So our race winner from yesterday was, of course, Joseph Loke, and then John Bennett in second. So really strong result for John Bennett still. He'll be disappointed to have lost the win. But again, Joseph Loke, another second race win in 4 races this season. He's doing so well in his first, rookie season in the GB3 Championship.
Yeah, it would have been John Bennett's first overall win as well, so I'm sure that will be a hard one to take for him. But Piers this morning has gone and caught up with Rob Bath, who is a driving standards steward for the GB3 Championship. So let's hear what he had to say about it.
Here with driving standards official Rob Bath. Rob, just tell us a little bit about what you do on the race weekend and how you have an impact on what goes on behind the scenes.
So I, with Rob Jenkinson, sit in race control, and alongside the stewards and the clerk of the course watch what's going out on track, and any judicial procedures we'll look at from a professional driver's perspective and try to add to the information that helps the clerk of the course and the stewards make their decisions.
Yeah, I think that's definitely something that's a real benefit, because also you're in a position where you can not only tell the drivers what they've done wrong, but also give them information about what they could have done better in the future to help their driving progress as opposed to their career.
Yeah, and the credibility of what we do in GB3 and GB4 now is just getting better and better and better, and we kind of add another layer to that.
And we saw a little bit of in the GB3 race earlier on yesterday in the wet, there was a change of position for the lead. Just tell us about how that comes about and what you sort of saw happen and how that the decision was made.
So there were 3 issues yesterday. There were 2 overtakes off track where they gained an advantage by leaving the circuit, and there were a number of drivers. There were 6 drivers that set a fastest sector under a waved yellow flag, and we look at the footage of those incidents, be it maybe an onboard footage, or we look at the timing sheets and understand where and how they gained an advantage, and then pass that information to the stewards, who then make the decisions. And as we saw yesterday, it was a reversal of those 2 positions.
Brilliant, thanks very much for the insight. Hopefully you won't have too much work to do today, but we've got 2 more races coming up. Bit dry today, but looking forward to it. Do you think the driving standards generally have been pretty good this season already though?
Oh, they're phenomenal. These drivers, they are going to go on to, a number of them, to stardom. So it's been a pleasure working with them.
Brilliant, thanks for your time, Rob, and have a good weekend.
Thank you.
The GB3 Championship, partnered by the BRDC, is the UK's premier single-seater series and is run by Motorsport Vision's racing division, MSVR. The 2023 season will consist of up to 26 drivers across 9 teams driving the Tartar's MSV 022 car, which was introduced last year. Each race weekend consists of 1 qualifying session and 2 20-minute races, with a final 25-minute reverse grid race where the pole sitter will be pushed towards the back of the pack. There are 24 races across 8 weekends this season, including 2 trips abroad, one to Spa-Francorchamps in Belgium and the other to Zandvoort in the Netherlands. The season started at Alton Park on Easter weekend, with visits to Silverstone Grand Prix in May, Spa and Snetterton in June, Silverstone Grand Prix again at the end of July, Brands Hatch in September, before the season concludes with back-to-back weekends at Zandvoort Grand Prix and Donington Park in October. There are no required pit stops in GB3, but each driver is only allowed to use a maximum of 8 tyres per race weekend, which is the equivalent to 2 complete sets, meaning tyre strategy is a critical part of each weekend. The GB3 champion will be awarded a prize test in an FIA Formula 3 car, allowing them to experience the next step up the ladder as they look to follow in the footsteps of numerous other graduates, including Luke Browning, who have gone on to race in the F1 paddock. In addition, the Jack Cavill Pole Position Cup awards each driver who claims a pole position in qualifying with a £250 cash prize and a trophy, with the driver with the most poles at the end of the season taking home the Pole Position Cup and an extra £2,000 cash sum. The team of the driver with the most poles will also earn £2,000.
So I've now joined High-Tech Pulse 8 driver and Red Bull Junior driver Sauter Arau. Sauter, I mean, great to have you with us, first of all. It's the first time we've had a Red Bull Junior in the GB3 Championship. We were just speaking there. I know you've based yourself now in Milton Keynes as well. How does it feel to be part here racing in the UK and in the GB3 Championship?
Yeah, it's good. My teammate is Alex, and Alex was in Italian F4, and Michael did race in British F4 last year. Yeah, I had good teammate. I can compare to data with him. It's good for me.
And High-Tech, of course, a very successful team in the championship as well, and in the Formula. You must feel you're in safe hands with this team.
Yeah, it's good. High-Tech has a lot of data from a few years ago, and if I can get good result, I can race with High-Tech to FIA3 or FIA2. It's good for me.
For people who don't know Sauter, he's come from the French F4 Championship, where he finished third in that championship last year. Very competitive championship as well. How has the track's been different coming from France to the UK? Is the track's a lot different?
Yeah, track is narrower than French F4. Example, Orton and Brands Hatch, it was a tough track, but I enjoyed it.
And what do you think of the car as well? How has it been jumping up from that F4 to this car?
Yeah, this car has a lot of downforce than French F4. I feel it's fun to drive, and all track in example Silverstone.
And this is definitely a local race for you. Milton Keynes, not far at all, and not far from where Red Bull F1 team are based. So this must almost feel like a real home race for you.
Yeah, it's home race, and High-Tech is close from Silverstone. Yeah, it's my favorite track, and High-Tech's home track is good.
And you know, this is where we have the British Grand Prix every year. You know, a lot of Red Bull drivers have done very well here. A lot of Japanese drivers have raced here over the years as well. How does it feel to be out there on the same circuit that we have the Formula One British Grand Prix every year?
I'm happy to race in Formula One track in Silverstone, and I can do race in Spa and Zambon. Yeah, I'm happy to race in F1 Grand Prix circuit.
You're looking forward to those circuits as well, Spa and Zambon?
Yeah, of course. I drove Spa last year. It was so fun track, and so fun track too. Yeah, I'm so happy.
Let's just quickly reflect on round one. How do you feel it went for you overall? I know that the first race weren't the best start, but overall, do you feel you made progress in that first round?
Yeah, first round qualifying was good, but I made a mistake in round one, race one. Race two was rain. It was I mistake in start. I got a lot of oil spin. Then yeah, it was not good to start of the season, but.
And how's testing been going so far here at Silverstone?
And Silverstone was good testing, good pace, and always top 5 in dry. The rain was not easy, but it's good.
Do you think we can push for some podiums maybe for this round?
Yeah, I think so. If I can push, if I can get good pace in qualifying, I can get.
Well, it's Silverstone Sunday as we return for the GB3 Championship, partnered by the BRDC. It'll be round number 5 of the season as we'll get underway in what looks to be fairly tricky conditions. But as you can see, John Bennett on our screen right there, slick tyres are the choice at the moment. A bit of heat out there. It's still a little damp on the race circuit, and quite a lot has happened overnight, including John Bennett's chance at the race win, or his race win from yesterday, has been removed. He's been dropped back to 2nd place after making an overtake off the racing circuit, meaning that Joseph Loke has become our race winner and becomes a 2-time race winner in the season. Lewis McGlade and Piers Pryor in the commentary booth for you. Piers, this is going to be an entertaining one, surely, in what is going to be quite tricky conditions out there.
Yeah, definitely tricky conditions out there. The circuit is still somewhat damp. You can see on the off this racing line. Oh, we've got a spinner. That was Edward Pearson spinning round, I think.
Oh, goodness, already. Well, we'll take a look at the grid for the race. We've got John Bennett starting from pole position, his 2nd consecutive one in the GB3 Championship, looking for his first victory alongside Alex Dunn. Costa de Paris got a penalty yesterday and dropped back from 3rd position. He'll start from 3rd in this one. Alongside, that won't actually be Joseph Loke. It will be Jared Waberski starting from 4th position. Matthew Rees and then Callum Voisin will actually start from 6th position, at least on the grid that I've got. So I'm not 100% sure if this is the correct grid. We'll read it as we go through, because we've got Callum Voisin and Jared Waberski there in 7th and 8th, but I'm not actually sure, because I think Callum Voisin will be starting from 6th, then Mackenzie Cresswell from 7th, then Zach Taylor from the 8th position. Nico Christodoulou will roll off from 9th, and Joseph Loke will start from 10th as expected. He did have a poor 2nd lap in qualifying, and so Joseph Loke will be actually starting from the 10th position. Then Noah Ping will start from 11th. Max Esterson will start his way from 12th. We've got Morales in 13th position, with Suta Arau starting from 14th. Edward Pearson, who you've seen have those problems, from 15th position, with James Headley starting his way from 16th. A bad qualifying for James Headley. Oliver Stewart and Iata Iwasaki starting from 18th position. Arthur Roujon, after issues in qualifying, despite having good pace at Alton Park, does not have that pace here in Silverstone. Michael Shim will start from 20th. Sean Rashid, Daniel Mavlitov starting on the 11th row of the grid with Gerard Shi. And then on the final couple of positions, as they were yesterday, Timek Kuharczyk after disqualification from qualifying after a technical infringement. Same with Lucas Saiko. The 2 Douglas Motorsports cars starting from 24th and 25th. So a reminder that it'll be John Bennett and Alex Dunn starting from the front row, I believe, as they did yesterday.
Yes, you can see there that problem at the exit of the first corner for Edward Pearson, having a spin on cold, slick tyres. You can see the circuit is still very much damp in places. 4 new tyres will be used for everyone on the grid in this race, pretty much that I've seen when I was on the starting grid. So those Pirelli tyres will take a while to get up to temperature. When they're brand new, you can't quite get the temperature in them in just a roll up like this. And you can see Nico Christodoulou actually running on the water there, which will actually cool them down somewhat. So the first couple of laps will be tricky for the drivers, as the carcass of the tyre and the surface of the tyre won't quite be at full temperature yet.
So now, we've kind of seen them do the formation. I've seen a couple of little bits of drama. Who should pick for the race win in this one?
I think Bennett is going to be the one to beat in this one. He'll be fired up after having his first race win in the championship taken away from him yesterday. 2nd is still a very good result for him after a struggling weekend at Alton Park. By his own standards, he mentioned that to us at Alton Park. But yeah, he'll have if he gets to the first corner first, I don't see anyone else beating him.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I kind of lean the same way. It depends on how those starts go, particularly for the JHR development drivers. I mean, Joseph Loke, our championship leader by quite some margin, by the way. He'll be starting from 10th position in this race. Watch out for him on the race start, because yesterday, I know it was in wet weather, etc., but he got that start absolutely nailed, and starting from 10th position. If he gets that done here, he might be on for a good one down to T1.
Yeah, we haven't mentioned Dunn, though, because Dunn is, of course, even though he's in 2nd place on the inside, is actually a slightly drier part of the circuit by the looks of the inside. Normally the outside is the favoured place to start, but yeah, a 1-by-1 staggered grid start, so it'll be interesting to see how it goes. Those JHRs started well. We've got the last cars, Staiko in the back of the grid. Looking forward to this one, Lewis.
This is going to be a lot of fun indeed. Round 5 of the GB3 Championship, partnered by the BRDC, is about to get underway. John Bennett once again starting this one from pole position, but can he convert to a race victory this time? It all comes down to the race start. The lights are on and we are underway at Silverstone. Once again, it's a poor start from Costa de Paris, and I believe that'll be Matthew Rees, who's sweeped around the outside to take over what should be 3rd position of the race down towards the first corner. It might even be more than that. Matthew Rees has come through to take the race lead. That is absolutely sensational. Matthew Rees starting from 5th position. I said JHR have some good starts in them, but that grey and orange car has moved his way up. You've got in there David Morales making it side by side with one of the Arden VRD cars. I think that one will be Noah Ping through the middle of the pack as they head through Maggots, Beckers and Chapel. A couple of struggles from the likes of Max Esserson on the race start, but that was madness from Matthew Rees.
Matthew Rees was an excellent start. We've seen those JHR's cars have had great starts in the wet and in the dry, and Matthew Rees has romped away. Clearly got some good grip on the damp conditions, and Bennett is now under pressure in from third place, who is, I think, who's currently third. I didn't quite catch who that was, Lewis.
Did you see, is anyone starting on wet tyres in this, or is that all on slicks? You were down there in assembly and briefly saw them roll through.
I didn't see anyone on wet tyres. That doesn't mean that they're not, because obviously there was a lot of cars there and I didn't catch all of them, but I'm pretty sure everyone's on slicks, and it's still tricky out there as we see Bennett having a bit of a wiggle through the apex of Club Corner. Still racing going on down the field. Yesterday's race winner there, Loke, still having a wiggle on the exit, and that's the number 10 of the Elite Motorsport car.
Maybe 16 of Mackenzie Cresswell making his way through up towards Abbey. So one position down for Joseph Loke. We had moved forward 1 or 2, so won't worry too much about that as they head their way through again this what would be the starting section of Grand Prix weekend. You've got Zach Taylor there running wide in the background in one of the Chris Dittman racing cars, that red distinctive red, yellow and black machine. You've got Max Esserson there in the red, white and green, making his way to the inside of of Nico Christodoulou as they head their way through Aintree. It could be tight as they head onto the Wellington Straight. Couple of snaps of oversteer as they power their way on the short run towards Brooklands. Look at this though, up the order, John Bennett for second position, under attack though from Alex Dunn, that number 22 getting to the inside. Dunn's trying to fight his way through Bennett, who's sort of struggling a little bit at the moment.
Yeah, Bennett doesn't seem to quite have the grip at the moment, potentially slightly differing strategy on tyre pressures from the teams, because of course at the front we've got 3 teams in the first 3 positions. JHR at the lead with Matthew Rees, who's romped away, absolutely checking out at the front. Fastest first, second and third sector, but you know, Bennett's still under pressure, struggling a little bit. Dunn's looking racy, didn't quite get the move done in Brooklands, but will be looking to make a move down the Hanger Straight now.
Okay, you don't pull out 3 seconds on a lap for no reason. You know, these drivers are all roughly around the same level of speed, and so what could this be? Tyre pressures, anything like what could make this kind of difference? The level of confidence it seems that Rees has over the rest of the field is mind-boggling.
Well, it's clearly just found the grippiest part of the circuit, potentially gone slightly higher with the tyre pressures. I'm not sure, because they knew it was damp out there, but we can see Dunn now looking at the inside of Bennett going up towards Stowe.
Yeah, see if Dunn's going to make his way through. So he looks down the inside and big oversteer. He's going straight on. That can actually cost him a couple of positions because Callum Poison's not too far behind. But thankfully, the grouping to those behind, he's not actually lost too much. A big moment there from Alex Dunn. So John Bennett's going to hang on to his position. Couple of moves and shakers in the back. Costa to Paris trying to keep the likes of Mackenzie Cresswell behind and Joseph Loke getting quite close to the rear end of that number 20 of Jared Oberski in that Ford-Tech car that's presently running in 5th position. There is Mackenzie Cresswell. Obviously still fairly new to the Elite Motorsports team. Let's take a look at a replay and take a look at this. Talk us through this snap of oversteer for Dunn.
Yeah, it's definitely a damper part of the circuit here, but as he went in on the brakes, it's a very fast corner, and the outside of the circuit is definitely drier, and I think Dunn just being pushed to the inside by Bennett got on the wetter part of the circuit. And also, sorry for the sharp intake of breath, everyone, as we went through Club and Vale. It was when Steico had a look up the inside of, not Steico, sorry, Costa Paris had a look up the inside of Oberski going into Club, which isn't really an overtaking opportunity, but Loke now looking up the inside of Cresswell, not quite getting the move done then.
Yeah, we saw obviously the attempts between the likes of Christodoulou and Esserson earlier. There is our race leader in Matthew Rees. I mean, distinctive and fast at the moment. JHR Developments looking to take a couple of race wins. This, of course, Joseph Loke being a JHR Developments driver who's currently on our screen, so they'd like to take a sweep of race victories, at least so far in this Silverstone weekend. Joseph Loke, our championship leader, has worked his way up to 8th position at the moment, looking to work his way even further forward.
For a replay of the start, apparently Rees has got a 10-second penalty for a jump start. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
No wonder he had a good start. He completely jumped it.
That's where the 3 seconds comes from.
Yeah, but 10-second penalty. He could still have a good result here because of the pace he's got. Again, purple first sector, purple second sector.
He's
purple final
seconds clear.
He could win this race with a 10-second penalty if he carries on the way he is, but they're still battling in the top 10 as we see Taparis sideways going through Maggots and Beckers right behind Waberski, and Waberski in that red and white car, Taparis in the black and white
Trying to get
Road and Carling.
You can see that already trying to get heat to the tyres once again, even this late into the race. There's Mackenzie Cresswell looking to the inside with the yellow highlights. Look, there's Joseph Loke straight around the outside of 1, maybe 2 as well. What a move from Joseph Loke in the 84. Our championship leader does 2 right around the outside of Stowe. That is absolutely sensational. Cresswell sending 1 back in as he gets around the outside of Costa de Paris, but that is mind-boggling. The bravery this kid's got is unreal.
I'm genuinely in here in disbelief. That is outrageous. Joseph Loke, how have you done that? You've just gone around the outside of 2 cars who are on the limit side by side, going through Stowe Corner. Yes, the outside line is clearly grippier, and he's seen that. And now he's having a go at Jared Waberski. Joseph Loke is showing that, oh my God, look at the grip he's got.
He's clearly got the same level of grip of Matthew Rees at the moment, because clearly JHR developers have something at the moment in these kind of conditions. They have figured something out and hit the nail on the head, as we've got this battle once again for second position, because the Road and Carlin seem to struggle a little bit. John Bennett being one of those. Alex Dunn around the outside. Bennett's gone in too deep, and he's sent Alex Dunn out wide. I can tell you for sure that'll be a slam dunk. Surely, when it comes to the penalty department, there has been that'll be a stall as well for Dunn. He might just be out of the race. I think it's ripped the rear left wheel off. That was a costly mistake from John Bennett.
Yeah, that's going to change the order, certainly. And unfortunately, John Bennett, after having his race win taken away there, is struggling in this one. It seemed like Dunn definitely had more pace than Bennett, and he was trying to get through, couldn't quite get the move done, but it looked like Bennett just on the wetter part of the circuit on the inside, just slid a little wide. Again, we can only comment on what we've seen from that first camera angle. We don't have access to onboards right now. The stewards, and of course Rob Bath, who heard from, or we'll hear from, is a driving standards official, will have a look at that and make a decision. But no, really disappointing for for Dunn, of course, and that's it, race over. He is going to be
a safety
fuming.
car. Also getting note that car 17, which is Ollie Stewart's, getting a penalty. This is a slow-mo, lovely super slow-mo, but not of a lovely incident. Straight out into Alex Dunn, who will be fuming. He is not having a good start to the 2023 season. He's been kind of up and down the order, not been exactly where we expect him to be, which genuinely, with the likes of Alex Dunn, would be the front. Unfortunately, this occasion. Just to clarify, if there is a safety car, obviously that is not what Matthew Rees wants, because look at the gap. He is nearly 10 seconds clear of John Bennett already.
God, Matthew Rees would be absolutely gutted if the safety car does get pulled, because, oh, it's another car stop. That's a row. Another high-tech, 2 high-tech Pulse safety cars out. We can't see exactly where that is. That might be on the exit of Stowe.
I'm leaning towards Stowe, yeah. I'm thinking it's an odd place, though.
Oh, and that's a contact with Dylan Morales.
There's a lot of damage as well, a lot of debris and detritus in the area, and you can see there, that is where Suto Rao, so it definitely is out of Stowe. I'm sorry for Matthew Rees fans, I'm going to think we're probably heading towards the safety car with all these kind of cars all over the circuit. Don't get me wrong, we've got some of the absolute best marshals in the world here at Silverstone, but they've got a lot of work to do this lap.
Well, we're still racing, and we race until the safety car boards.
Well,
there you go, safety car's just been called, but that is gutting for Rees, because he had actually pulled almost 10 seconds. In fact, let's have a look over the line, see what the gap was. It might have been affected by the fact the safety car boards are out now, but
it's 9 seconds.
9 seconds. So he was going to be in net second place as this, but Loke up in 4th place with ridiculous pace as well. I mean, I am so impressed with Joseph Loke this season, but you know, this pace he had at Alton Park and then showed good maturity, and then to the pace he's had in this race, clearly JHR have made a very good decision with the way they've set up their car, because those 2 JHR cars, Morales was coming through as well, clearly when he had that incident with the row, but those 2, especially Loke and Rees, they just seemed like they had different tyres on. Yeah,
absolutely. So of those down the order, obviously Pearson had issues early on. We saw him back in pit lane there, the number 41, Dunn, obviously out of the race. Arau and Morales both out of the race also. And again, a reminder to those of you just jumping in, our race leader in this, there is James Headley in pit lane. He is not having a similar weekend as to what he had back in Alton Park. Our race leader in this race has a 10-second time penalty. Matthew Rees has a 10-second time penalty for jumping the race start, which is what gave him the race lead and allowed him to clear off into the distance as we head under our first safety car here at Silverstone. Again, that car behind John Bennett in the yellow highlights. don't want to speak on behalf of race control, but obviously did get involved in that incident with Alex Dunn, so his position in this race has a big question mark and asterisk over it. So really, looking back from that, you've got the likes of Voisin, you've got the likes of Loke, who, as you were saying, has been insane in this race. He started from 10th position, has gone up to 4th.
Yeah, exactly, and it's because we've gone under safety car, it looks like with only 10 minutes remaining, it's going to be a race that ends up being called on time rather than laps. So yeah, we'll keep you updated with that. It will flip over at some point on our screen. But yeah, we haven't spoken about Callum Voisin this whole race. He's kind of just kept out of trouble. He's currently in 3rd place on the road, but definitely Matthew Rees has got a penalty. John Bennett is likely to have some sort of steward inquiry, which potentially will result in a penalty. We'll keep you updated as the day goes on with any results there. But with it being the driver on the inside, there was space to the apex. It's likely that we'll see John Bennett get a penalty for that incident that he had with Alex Dunn, which is a real shame. It wasn't malicious. He wouldn't have been trying to make contact there. It's just tricky conditions. But that leaves Voisin in first, or what, probably his 3rd place on the road, but for now it's likely he's going to have a good result. Cresswell and Loke will be right up there as well. Loke, of course, coming up from 10th to 4th, which could end up being a podium, and Cresswell as well. He'll be glad to see that.
So let's take a look. 5th car in shot here. That is the jump start that we were seeing there from Matthew Rees. You can see him going around the outside there. A very clear jump start. I mean, yeah, not too hard to back out. This is the incident that was between Dunn and Bennett. You can see Bennett in a little bit too hot, straight into the side of Alex Dunn. You're absolutely right, Dunn was leaving plenty of room to the apex, and you know, it's very slippery on the inside. Don't get me wrong, there's a lot more moisture to the inside. Speaking of this driver, by the way, you were saying we've not spoken about him all race. We've not really spoken about him too much this season, to be perfectly honest. Yet he did come into this round 3rd in the championship. He finished 6th yesterday. Once again, running in that kind of race. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't think he's having the most brilliant start to the season to what he would want, you know, yet to take a race victory and all that, like, but for a championship challenge, he's always hovering around the right place. He's just there or thereabouts, and we know from last year with Callum Voisin, when it clicks, man, does it click.
Yeah, we've seen Voisin has outrageous pace at different times, and I'm sure that will come at some point. You know, we saw it at Silverstone last year, he was rapid. At Brands GP, he was absolutely the fastest driver in testing and leading up to quali, and unfortunately made a mistake which gave him a difficult weekend. But he's definitely in this season for the championship. He wants to be the champion. I picked him as my favourite for the championship, and I think he's doing exactly what he needs to do. I mean, every single race apart from race 3 where he got taken out at Alton Park, which wasn't his fault at all, he's pretty much been exactly where he needs to be. He's been playing the long game, playing it safe, getting the points, just building. He knows he's got the pace, so when everything clicks, he'll be right there. But it's, you know, I actually listened to the Beyond the Grid podcast this week with Valtteri Bottas, and he was talking about Lewis Hamilton and saying, you know, what, you know, Tom Clarkson asked him, why is Lewis Hamilton so good? And he said, well, on an average day, Lewis Hamilton is better than everyone else's average day.
Yeah.
So, and Callum Voisin is kind of living by that. He, you know, he knows on a good day he can win every, all 2 or 3 races, but he needs to be the best on an average day. And so far, the first 2 rounds, I know it's only 2 rounds into the season, or sorry, 6, this is the race 5.
Weekends.
2 weekends, sorry, it's only race 5 of a 24-race season.
Had to correct someone out yesterday, yeah.
Yeah, but you know what I mean, it's the results like this that is going to put a championship challenge together, and not getting involved in incidents like from the likes we've seen potentially with Bennett, unfortunately with Dunn and stuff like that. So yeah, no, really good good driving so far this season. Oh yeah, there's definitely been contact there. You can see damage to the front right-hand corner of Raoul's car.
I think Headley might have been involved in that as well, because obviously Headley's come into the pit lane to have a front wing replaced, but still obviously under safety car, and like I was saying, it is going to be a timed race. These safety car laps are taking us around about 3 minutes 10 seconds, so if we go green, we're kind of umming and ahhing as to whether we're going to be going green at all. If it is, it might be for the last lap of this race, because with 6 minutes left to go, the safety car needs to be in next lap. But obviously, you know, we're not saying that in a sense of like the marshals need to get on with it. They are doing everything in the right order at the right speed to do it safely. You know, they've got a lot of work to do, to be fair.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm interested to see if we do go green, which will, if we do, will only be for 1 lap, as to whether those JHR cars will still have the ridiculous pace that they had at the start of the race, because it might have been, for example, a choice for tyre pressures maybe going a bit higher, for example, which can get your pressures and temperatures up a bit quicker. Maybe it was just good tyre preparation from those 2 drivers. Maybe they just worked harder than everyone else in getting brake temperature, tyre temperature, or maybe they did have more information about track walks. I don't know.
Safety car lights are off. Very quickly, before that safety car comes in, I'll very quickly ask you then about tyre pressures, because you say tyre pressures, if you have them on a high pressure, warm up faster, etc., etc. They've had a few laps to cool them down. Does that mean that JHR's advantage should actually hold true on the restart as well as it did on the race start?
To be honest, I'm just speculating about tyre pressures. It could be a suspension change, it could be a wing change. I don't know. That there's so many different parameters they can change on the car, along with what the driver can do.
We're about to find out.
Let's have a look and see what happens at this restart. Lewis, I'll let you talk through the restart now as they're getting prepared at the last corner.
Yeah, indeed. Again, a reminder, our race leader in this has a 10-second time penalty, question marks over the number 27 that runs in second position. We are back racing here at Silverstone. Matthew Rees will hang on to the race lead, John Bennett in second position, and then Callum Voisin directly behind. But watch Joseph Loke, who I think is the most likely to take a victory here, just based on his speed right now. Got a side-by-side on the start-finish there. I think that might have been Nico Christodoulou. There is Matthew Rees with a couple of big slides going through T1. It's going to push him out wide. Joseph Loke is the only one that stays in track limits there, going through Copse as they head down towards Maggots, Beckett and Chapel. Through there, they're all kind of holding on to roughly the same positions as what they restarted in at the moment. There is only a little bit of chopping and changing behind between Costa Taparis and Nico Christodoulou, as Christodoulou is trying to find his way through. Out wide goes one of the Chris Dittman racing cars. That'll be Taylor getting passed by Roujon. Yeah,
that was Taparis looking under pressure from Nico Christodoulou, but Christodoulou couldn't get the move done through Maggots and Beckett's. Wasn't actually the most effective restart from Rees, because he was immediately under pressure from Bennett and Voisin.
Oh, big lock-up!
Yeah, big lock-up. Who was that?
I think Loke. I think it might have been Loke. Wasn't 100% sure. It was just out of camera shot on the left-hand side, but I think it might have been Loke based on time. It could have been Callum Voisin, though, based on the pressure that he's getting from Loke through the club section. Yeah,
the marshals did a really good job to get us racing underway this time, and we're going to have 2 racing laps of this one and the next, maybe even one after, actually. Oh, incident at the back. Is that Roujon?
That's broken car. Zach Taylor.
Zach Taylor.
Is a broken front right on Zach Taylor's car, unfortunately.
No, left rear. Left rear.
Oh yeah, of course it would be. Yeah, I'm with you.
So it's likely that he's been hit going into the braking zone, much like we saw between Rao and Vaburski yesterday.
Yeah.
It wasn't in shot, so we didn't see exactly who it was, but there we go. Loke going around the outside of Voisin. Voisin's going to give him a squeeze. Loke just about stayed on the circuit there. I think he'll probably be able to claim that he was forced off, but Voisin getting a cut back out of the loop, but slotting back in again. Voisin just taking a very low-risk option here.
Yeah, this is fantastic though from Loke. Once again, I'd say yeah, probably leaning a little bit more to him being squeezed off just a touch, going through that sort of central section, village, the loop, going through the farm curve. That's way too deep though, going through Brooklands, because Callum Voisin's going to come straight back down the inside. He still manages to wrestle it up towards the exit of the Brooklands corner and straight onto the scene is Mackenzie Cresswell. He wants a part of this. He fancies himself potentially onto a podium. They probably won't know at this point that Matthew Rees has a 10-second time penalty, right?
It's unlikely. They might see at the start-finish that there's a penalty for the car number, but whether they remember or look or even have considered it, I don't think so. But it doesn't matter, because Rees has pulled a 1.7-second gap on this lap anyway.
There will be 2 laps, by the way.
Yeah, so we're going to have 2 more laps.
Whoa, here we go. There is Mackenzie Cresswell going straight around the outside, going into Maggots, Beckers and Chapel. He's trying to make his way past Callum Voisin. That is a sensational move from Mackenzie Cresswell. Wow. I mean, that came basically out of nowhere as a slow launch off of Copse corner from Callum Voisin, and Cresswell makes his way past through one of the bravest sections in some of the trickiest and slippiest conditions as Waberski defends from Costa to Paris.
Yeah, it looks like those Carling cars are struggling a little bit for grip compared to the Elite Motorsports and JHRs of Rees, Loke, and of course Elite was where Cresswell managing to go around the outside. We know how fast those Elite cars have been historically here at Silverstone as well, with Tom Lebon having some great results as well as John Bennett in the previous years. But yeah, it seems like those Carling cars are just sort of the cork in the bottle at the moment.
Yeah, they're not really getting into too much. By the way, we did just see the 17 of Ollie Stewart making a move on the number 23 of Michael Shin. Again, to remind you, as much as we've got the penalty for the race leader Matthew Rees, Ollie Stewart also has a 10-second time penalty, as we're seeing a move from Kuharczyk getting down the inside of Noah Ping, going up towards Abbey. That will be Kuharczyk making his way through into 11th position.
Wow, Kuharczyk has had an absolutely monstrous race, plus 13 places at the moment. That is outrageous. Fair play to him, because we know he's had great pace both in the dry and the wet in testing. Of course, that small technical infringement, unfortunately, that affected Styko and Kuharczyk, put them at the back of the grid for both the first and this race, and he's coming back through the field.
Well, just remember, he did finish 14th yesterday, despite being spun off as well, because he did spin through that race. Here comes Nico Christodoulou on Roujon. These two battling over 9th position. Roujon trying to make the move going through Brooklands and unable to do so.
It looks like Christodoulou's got some front wing end plate damage on his left-hand side. Potentially, could that have been contact with the Zach Taylor car?
Yeah, potentially, but you would suspect with the amount of damage that there would have been more. They weren't a million miles away from each other.
No, I think that's potential. I mean, I'm just speculating because we didn't see it on camera, but just in putting the 2 and 2 together, I might be making 7, but we'll see. But yeah, Christodoulou will definitely be losing a bit of front downforce with that front wing end plate just hanging off slightly. But back to the front of the field, Loke is now putting Bennett under pressure, and also under pressure is Weberski in that red and white Fortec machine with the yellow highlights, and Toparis in the black and white Rodin Carlin car. That's a battle that's been going on for a while.
Yeah, indeed. Well, we're on the final lap of this race. There's only a few more opportunities to go. Again, Matthew Rees is starting to pull out his 3 seconds. He is clear at present. And as he continues to pull away from John Bennett, the reminder that he needs to pull 10 seconds on the grid if he wants to win the race. That ain't happening, but he is still getting a top 10, to be fair.
Yeah, it's still a top 10. Just looking at John Bennett there, having it looked like a bit of a rear shudder as the car went into the Vale corner. It was bouncing around, so potentially his brake bias he's braking very hard, and his brake bias at the rear is causing the car to shudder. And they're all missing the apex through Vale, so it's clearly a bit more damp there.
Yeah, certainly so. You just saw race leader there going through the foreground shot. There is John Bennett with those distinctive yellow highlights in his Rodin Carlin. Joseph Loke at the moment sat behind him, not trying to, basically doing what he was doing yesterday, just sat behind John Bennett and not really finding any way to make his way through at present.
No, that pace advantage they had at the start of the race has somewhat sort of fallen away a little bit, although saying that.
Oh, in the background, look at this. There is once again the battles between Mackenzie Cresswell and Callum Voisnes. They'll race their way towards Brooklands. We'll catch it as long as we can. We'll have to see our race leader across the line. That'll be the move to the inside from Cresswell, but it's more coming from outside, and Voisnes is going to be contact between the two of them going through Brooklands. Voisnes has to back out of it, and he might well feel pretty aggrieved by that. Across the line in first place, Matthew Rees will come, but a 10-second time penalty will greet him at the line, pushing the race win back to John Bennett. But under concerned circumstances, we'll have to wait and see as to who's really going to come out on top in this race. Bennett crosses the line ahead of Loke, ahead of Cresswell onto the podium. Callum Voisnes and Weberski as some tight races up towards the line. I think Kuharczyk was almost picking up another one across the line. He did indeed. He got Rouge on by 0.2 of a second to make it inside the top 10 from the rear of the field. That is a mega drive from Kuharczyk, who was originally slated to start from a double pole, but after that technical infringement had to start from the back, but he's making the most of it, same as what we saw when last year Luke Browning was having his problems. That's the level of driver that Kuharczyk's at the moment.
Kuharczyk is driving fast, and he's 10th place on the road, but that'll end up being 9th place, as the 10-second penalty for Rees will take him down to 11th or 12th, I believe. That will be, let's have a look, 11th place ahead of Artur Rojan, behind Kuharczyk.
Yeah, that's, like I say, it's a bit of a shame for him, but you know, those are the things that happen for those drivers. You know, like I say, Matthew Rees, he's down in 7th position at the moment after being moved down there. Half a second though between the race leads. We're just not sure as to what's going to happen to this man here, 27. Again, there'll be a steward's inquiry between the High-Tech Pulsate and the Rodin Carlin team, but that's the last thing that John Bennett wants, to have 2 races removed from him, courtesy of race control. We won't speak about that too much until we get any confirmation of it. We'll just treat it as if John Bennett has indeed won this race. Obviously, it's going to have a long race later on in the day when we do the reverse grid based off the qualifying order. We'll talk more about that and how that's going to work a bit later on. If you haven't joined us for any of the GB3 races over, well, at all, ever really, because it's the format that we've run with quite a while. 3 races over a race weekend, and all 3 very, very different indeed. John Bennett, I don't know how he'll feel in the car at the moment. You can see the damage on the front of the car, and the thing is, when you've had an incident like that, you won't need to tell him what's going to happen. I'm very curious to see what the body language is going to be like when Bennett gets out of this car. Matthew Rees has already sped back into the pit lane, because I think he's already basically done with this race, and is running. You can actually see him there in the distance. He knows that it's not a race win. He was basically doing what he can, and he's still finished inside the top 10 with a 7th place. So for Matthew Rees, it has been a very impressive drive. Unfortunately, just coming courtesy of a jump start. If that safety car hadn't come out, Matthew Rees, I'd still would reckon would be our race winner. So pulling into the first position, you've got John Bennett here after taking and assuming the victory. Let's see what his body language is as he gets out of the car. Is he particularly pleased, or is he feeling somewhat disappointed? I'm going to suggest, based on that, he's not. He knows roughly where he's going in this one. We'll hand down to Chris, though. He'll be catching up with our podium. We can see how they feel from them directly.
Thank you very much, Lewis. John, do you want to just take your crash helmet off for us? We're down here with our top 3 celebrations going on. We're going to have a chat to the top 3. Of course, first win for John Bennett. It is going to be a win that will be looked at after that incident, but nevertheless, celebrations underway and a first win for the Rodin Carlin team. Well, we spoke yesterday. Good to be speaking to you again today. Talk us through the race.
Yeah, I'd just like to apologise to Alex firstly. I just lost it on the inside going into Brooklands. Still damp on the inside. Yeah, nothing more to say about that really. Yeah, I'd just like to apologise. Very tricky race. We only had 1 green flag lap. That was yeah, really tricky race. With the result, but not sure if it will stand. So
good sportsmanship, and Reece got a jump start there, but a great job for the Rodin Carlin team. You guys are showing really great pace.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the car's amazing. Yeah, I mean, all weekend we've been flying. Yeah, just like to say thanks to the team, my engineer Paul, Trevor, of course, my family, all my supporters, just like yesterday. But yeah, I mean, as I said before, apologies to Alex.
We'll be speaking again, I'm sure. Well done. John Bennett is our winner. Let's go and find second place then. Joseph Loke, we meet again. You can't get off the podium, can you? What's this sort of 5 out of 6 now, I think it might be, but absolutely fantastic stuff. I mean, talk us through the race. It looked very, very tricky out there.
Oh yeah, it was very tricky. But yeah, these sort of conditions are the ones that really bring me alive, and obviously starting P10, it was always going to be a struggle. But yeah, I'm just so happy with that race. Just obviously making moves. It's something that's not very easy in this championship, so I needed a bit of changeable conditions to mix it up, but yeah, just so happy. That's an amazing result.
And talk us through the move that got you into that position as well. Round the outside, that's got to be one of the moves of the weekend, and then coming into the loop, into the inside, that's what you call just sending it, isn't it? Talk us through it from your point of view.
Yeah, obviously I knew it was dry on the outside, and for some reason everyone was taking that mid-line that we were all doing in the wet yesterday, but I knew there was completely dry line around the outside, so I saw them both defending. I was like, if I'm going to get past them, it's now. So I just sent it in, just hoped that I had the grip, and it got a bit sketchy in the mid-park because there was like a wet patch, but I just had the little snap over it and then got back on throttle again. It was a really good move, that one. And then obviously around the outside of the Fortec as well into the chicane. So yeah, that half a lap was pretty hectic, but worked out in our favour.
Mate, well, we all enjoyed it in the truck. One for the socials there. Well done to Joseph Logan. In the reverse grid, given you came from 10th there, I think we're going to possibly be speaking again. Let's find Mackenzie Cresswell. Let's find out where he's gone. He finished in 3rd place, so we're going to find him. He's over there. Excuse me, sorry, I'm going to come running through. Mackenzie, well, podium. Yes. That's not too bad, is it? And some great moves, particularly into Maggots and Beckett's there.
It was good fun, yeah. Car was mega, and it was really easy to get the moves on people. Yeah, I had to push really hard that race because after Oldham we had no points on the board, so I was really pushing as hard as I can to get on the podium. I knew that Reece had a 10-second penalty. I was pushing 110% the whole race to try and get the next person. It was really good. Probably one of the most enjoyable races I've ever done.
What was going through your head there at the safety car restart, you know, coming past the BRDC clubhouse as well? Was it just, right, let's get on the move straight away? And yeah, were you lining that move up already?
I sort of had an idea of what I could have done because I did a similar move on Jared Roberski. There was a lot going through my head at the restart, a lot. I had Jared behind me pushing, and then I had Joseph and Callum in front of me that I was really eager to get past. So yeah, it was a bit tricky to keep a calm head, but I managed it, and yeah, happy to be on the podium.
I'm sure they enjoyed it from the clubhouse as well. Well done. Rising star for a reason, Mackenzie Cresswell. Well done. There is your top 3 then. If you have a look, then there you can see our top 3. John Bennett leading the way, taking his first win. Joseph Loke, I think it's only once now he's not been on the podium. And then Mackenzie Cresswell here finishing in 3rd place. So if you spin round here, you can see all the teams lining up. They are getting ready to celebrate because, Ben, they are about to go up onto that podium there. So we're going to hand back to Lewis now for the podium celebrations.
Yeah, certainly so. I mean, it really is impressive. Again, the amount of podiums that our championship leader is picking up. Unfortunately for John Bennett, like I said, I don't want to speak on behalf of Race Control, but he might have to be one of these drivers that ends up having to win his first race 3 times. We'll have to wait and see, though. Of course, you could, as soon as he took the helmet off, you could see it in his face, you could see it in his eyes. He probably won't even want to be on this page just because, you know there's going to be a big chat with Race Control. Instant apologies handed out to Alex Dunn, though. Kind of hear that over the roar of the cars in the background. It is what it is. These drivers, they're racing so hard. It's the finest of fine margins, and a costly mistake there, unfortunately, more so towards Dunn than towards Bennett, who did manage to cross the line. Also, heads-up driving from Mackenzie Cresswell, who, for one, didn't know obviously how bad his round was back in Alton Park, but then did also know how things were going here. He will take 3rd position in this race after really understanding the lay of the land with Matthew Rees's penalty. So Cresswell will finish himself in 3rd position. And for the 2nd time this weekend, we'll see Joseph Loke come out into the 2nd position on the podium. But will it be another race victory for him? Could he be looking at his 3rd race win of the season out of 5 races? It is certainly 4 podiums, though, in 2023. And then to the top step of the podium, it will be John Bennett for the Rodin Carlin team. He'll take to the top step, he'll take his 1st place trophy. As you can see, he's not particularly pleased about the proceedings. Still got a 3rd race, though, to wrestle his way through the field, and based on the speed that the likes of Joseph Loke and Mackenzie Cresswell were working their way through, who knows what is possible in the 3rd race later on this afternoon. We'll take a look, though, at highlights from the race. Highlights then from round number 5 of the GB3 Championship, partnered by the BRDC. John Bennett starting from pole position, but it was Matthew Rees who flew him around the outside to take over the race lead. It was only later in the race that we worked out it was actually courtesy of a jump start. Costa Paris, though, battling through some of the mid-pack with the likes of Mackenzie Cresswell before this fantastic move from Joseph Loke straight around the outside, not of 1 car, but of 2. This incident, though, saw Alex Dunn being ejected from the race after contact between himself and John Bennett, who would be sending him straight down the road. After a safety car restart, though, Matthew Rees was hanging on to the race lead, losing a lot of his advantage at the front of the field. Callum Boyson going out wide ahead of Joseph Loke. The battle would continue more so for the likes of 3rd and 4th, but also for those down the order. Unfortunate issues for Zach Taylor, who was out of the race after contact, plucking the rear left wheel off of his car before Joseph Loke was taking over 3rd position from Callum Boyson. It would become 2nd, though, courtesy of the penalty from Matthew Rees. Straight around the outside he would go, and the 84 would move up into what would be the runner-up position. Callum Boyson having to worry backwards now towards the charge of Mackenzie Cresswell that was flying in this race. Matthew Rees would come across the line in 1st place, but would not take the victory. It would end up going its way of John Bennett, who would come across the line in 2nd, and then the likes of Loke and Cresswell behind. A crazy race indeed. There is Bennett crossing the line. He would become the race winner at the end of all that on very, very provisional results. The number 27 at the top, ahead of Joseph Loke, Mackenzie Cresswell in 3rd, and Callum Voisin in 4th. Jared Wilburski getting a best result in GB3 so far with a 5th place finish. Costa Paris in 6th, with Matthew Rees being dropped back from the race victory to 7th place, only 5.8 seconds off. It shows how impressive his drive was today. Max Estenson inside the top 10 with an 8th place with Nico Christodoulou and Kuharczyk. Let's remind ourselves who started from the rear of the field. Arthur Roujon in 11th position for Chris Dittman Racing, with Michael Shin, who again came into this weekend in the top 5 in the championship, just keeps ticking off those midfield points. Fantastic consistency from him. Noah Ping directly behind Mavliatov and Gerard Shea in 15th place. Sean Rashid and the likes behind. We'll take a look at some of those down the order. Zach Taylor, of course, a retirement from all of that. Pearson had issues before the race had even begun. Morales, Arau and Dunn being retirements from the race. We'll head down to Piers Pryor, who I believe has Michael Shin.
Yes, down here at the media pen, and we've got Michael Shin for High Tech Pulsate. Michael, drama for your teammates, but you had a pretty solid race in the midfield there. You said you had some damage.
Yeah, I was going for a move down at the first chicane, but I ended up having contact with a Chris Dittman car, and that's why I lost my front wing flap on the left side, and all my corners, all the right-hand corners were really difficult for me because I had a lot of understeer, but the left-handers were somewhat manageable, so yeah, I had to fight through that one.
Michael, talk to us about the track conditions at the start. It looked like some parts of the circuit were damp and some parts were drier.
Yeah, I think most of it was quite damp, and there were only quite a few dry corners, like the last corner out of Abbey, leading on to the Hamilton Straight. but you know, all of us went on new tires because we didn't use them in the qualifying session, and so it was really sketchy trying to get them in whilst adapting to the damping track.
Brilliant. Well, thanks for the insight, Michael. Of course, one more race today.
Yeah.
You're starting somewhere up the sort of front, towards the front of the field with the reverse grid. Good race for you this afternoon, you hope?
Yeah, I'm going to try to make the most of it. We have another set of new tires to use, and you know, I think we have good pace, so we'll try to put up a good fight.
Great, I look forward to it. Thanks very much for your time. We'll bring in Nico Christodoulou for the Arden VRD team. Nico, tough race out there. We saw you had a little bit of front wing damage by the end of the race. Talk us through it.
Yeah, it wasn't too bad. Made some contact on the safety car restart, which was unfortunate, but in the end it was pretty good. Made up a few positions in the start, and then ended up going off and falling back a bit and covering my rads with grass, so I was losing horsepower in the straight, but what can you do when you're fighting for top positions?
It's really competitive in the middle of the grid where you were sort of, I think, around about 10th place-ish, and there was cars going up and down. There was a few incidents. Must have been hard to keep this car on track, especially with the new tyres and the damp track, as we heard from Michael Shin a moment ago.
Yeah, well, formation laps is all about getting the top off the new tires, and then with the changing conditions, half the track's soaking wet, half the track's dry. It's like trying to figure out where the best line is, how fast you can go, and don't overdo it where you're off track.
Do you think wets would have been an option?
I don't think so. They would have burned up way too quick, but definitely a really high pressure slick would have been the way to go.
Brilliant. Well, where are you starting in the race this afternoon? Do you know?
Yeah, I have no clue. Just gonna send it and see what happens.
Just going to send it, see what happens. We know you always do. Thanks for chatting to us, Nico. Good luck this afternoon.
Thank you.
Brilliant. Right, that was our Arden VRD driver, Nico Christodoulou. I don't think we've got any more drivers kicking about at the moment, so I'll just bring in, of course, Chris McCarthy, our main... Here we go, Chris.
I get to be interviewed by Piers Prime.
No, you went on circuit, mate. So, no, what did you think of that? You managed to grab a word with the guys in the podium. A great race for Joseph Loke.
Yeah, I mean, I thought there was some great overtaking, wasn't there?
Yeah.
You know, coming around Village into the loop, outside at Maggots and Beckett's, it seemed outside was strange though, because down at Stowe as well, if you just went slightly offline, you were off when you're into the runoff. So yeah, it was a tough race where you had to be on the racing line, and brave enough to go around the outside, then you could make some places.
Yeah.
And those that were brave were the ones we found down at the podium, I think.
Yeah, it was definitely outside was the work. Definitely outside was the work move. I think we got Arthur Rosen actually. If we grab a quick word before we wrap up. I'll let you chat to him, Chris.
I will give you this. There you go.
Thank you.
Piers has run off. Okay. Arthur, how was the race for you?
The race was good. We got good pace, but the track has a lot of wet patches, so that was really hard to stay on the track. But we managed to do that. So,
how is it dealing with that? Dealing with the line being being wet offline and trying to make overtakes with that. I imagine that makes it very, very tricky.
Yeah, overtaking the inside was a lot. It was completely hard, and just try to when they close the door, it was better because you can go outside and the dry line.
Nice to get some dry running in though. Let's talk about the next race, because you're going to be starting towards the front for that one. You're looking forward to that?
Yeah, the goal is to do podium, start in 6th position. So I know we have the speed to go to the top.
Well, best of luck. We'll let you go and debrief and get yourself set up for that. Piers,
yes.
Hello. Welcome back.
Yeah, I think it was a great race, and I'm looking forward to the reverse grid race later on.
It's going to be a good one, isn't it? I mean, lots of overtaking. We're going to have but possibly the Douglas guys. They were very impressive, weren't they, as well, coming through the field. We'll say one quick word on them before we wrap. What did you make of their performance?
I mean, Kuharchik's got great pace. We've seen that. Came through the field. A great drive to manage to get inside the top 10 from pretty much the last row. Looking forward to see how he gets on later on in the reverse grid race.
Well, that reverse grid race round 6 is going to be coming up later. In the meantime, of course, we're going to have the GB4 race round 5, the first race of the weekend, so make sure you stick around for that. But that's all for round 5. We'll see you for round 6 a little bit later. Goodbye.